righty, folks. We are on to another week of the tread, another week in our second set of Scaled Up Expo vendors. This is episode number 12. I still have not been kicked off of YouTube or the air, so we'll call that a plus. I'm Nick Karaskevich, and here today we have another one of our wonderful staples at the Scaled Up Expos, Dave from DNA Reptilia. How's it going?
Going good. How's it going, man?
Not too bad. I mean, we've got Rothschild coming up here right after the Memorial Day holiday.
Yes.
Dab is on here. I mean, I know, Dylan. I know you're excited about this. I mean, I'm sure you're giddy about this in chat right now. We need to get more people in the chat. Dylan, you need to tell people to start getting on here. Otherwise, they ain't going to be winning some free tickets.
Gotta have a chance at them tickets.
Yeah. So for folks that don't know, obviously, Dave, you do ball pythons. I mean, are there other reptiles that you breed as well, or just ball?
I specialize. Pardon me. I specialize in ball pythons, and myself, Abby, which is the other half of DNA Reptilia, works with crested geckos, leopard geckos. She dabbles with, or she's trying to dabble with hog noses. She has a red Ackie monitor. She has the variety. She's the other half of the knowledge pool, and I just have one specialty. Yeah. But then we have little side projects here and there. Me with my photography, and her with her epoxy art that she fills the table with every month.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I'm kind of curious. Obviously, everyone kind of has their own story and stuff. I mean, what got you, I guess, one from reptiles are cool to owning reptiles, to then from owning reptiles to now breeding reptiles and really making a multi-stream faceted business model with how you're doing both kind of the arts with photography and different, sculptures, as well as obviously the breeding and production of, live animals with the ball pythons as well.
Well, I can blame myself a little bit, but then I can also blame my daughter Abby for the majority of it. The thing is, way back about 15 years ago, I had a ball python.
Okay.
It was before our youngest daughter was born. But we had a ball python for about 6 months or so. It was doing really good. But then my wife became pregnant with her second child, and I felt that I wouldn't have had enough time to care for that animal. So rehomed it at the time before Sierra was actually born.
Right.
And we were doing, we'll skip over about 13 more years ahead.
Yeah.
And I was doing acrylic work. I was doing laser etched acrylic work.
Okay.
And I was vending at a show here in Kaukauna, and they actually mixed the exotics with saltwater.
Okay.
For the very first time. And that got me looking around and seeing all the different types of snakes and other reptiles. I'm like, holy crap, this is pretty damn cool.
Right.
And then my daughter Abby was actually with me at the time, and she was eyeballing up one of the ball pythons from Dats, who's down in northern Illinois.
Yeah.
And she ended up spending $200 of her own money on one. And it just kind of triggered me. It's like, well, I had one so many years ago. It'd be pretty cool to have another one. And sure enough, I walked over to Dad's, and a lot of us all met there. We all originated from there. And I walked over there, and I bought technically my second ball python, which I still have her to this day. She's now upstairs. And it just went from there. I just started researching more and more on Facebook and YouTube. That's when you can actually have animals for sale on Facebook, before they lay down the hammer on that. And it just snowballed. It just straight up snowballed. I traded a lot of my freshwater stuff to get a couple ball pythons from someone, and I just started looking and started doing some of the auctions and such. And it's one of those things where you buy too many males, not enough females, and you buy too many of the wrong genes and not enough of the right genes. And basically how it went into.
And I feel like that's a lot of people. I feel like everyone at the beginning, we buy for we're looking off the eyes. We're looking to try to get the coolest thing that we can get that we feel comfortable spending on. And 9 times out of 10, a lot of us end up, male heavy, like you were saying. And we're like, oh, well,
Right.
we got 3 males and 2 girls, type of a thing. And
But the thing at the beginning, I wasn't thinking about breeding. I was thinking, oh, this will be really cool. I have my own, and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, it's like, well, you got a female. Well, how about if and mine was a male that I got. At the time, It was a male, and I traded it up for a female instead. But it's like maybe we could grow these up and breed and make our own. It'd be pretty cool just to see what we get. And then pan out. She still has hers. I still have mine, and we're in 2 different households now. And she's never paired any of her snakes, any of her ball pythons yet, but she co-owns a couple that are in the breeding room. So
yeah. And I mean, the other thing, obviously, to highlight too, as well. I mean, and you put out a lot there as you've kind of, pushed out across your YouTube channel. Is, I mean, you breed your own rodents. You put all that extra time, effort into bedding changes, rodent feed, the smell of rodent.
That's why they're in the basement with the room blocked off and a good exhaust fan. It smells worse outside in our dog pen yard than it does actually downstairs in the basement. So.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, when you decided to go into breeding the rodents, was the rodents because of necessity? Do you enjoy breeding the rodents, or is it more of just kind of a means to an end to keep out, to keep up with kind of the hobby side with the snakes? I'm always interested in this one because some people really enjoy the rodents, I think, more than the snakes.
I do enjoy the rodents, just as much as I do with the snakes. The cool thing about the rodents is you get satisfied a little bit faster because every month they can have a litter. Each female can have a litter. So your satisfaction of making something that's totally different, mixing 2 different genes together, trying to make something different, is satisfied a lot quicker.
Yeah.
That's why I liked about the rats. Reason why I started the rats, because I was up to about 8 animals, and buying frozen thawed was starting to catch up already. I mean,
definitely.
Now I'm feeding over, I think, about 60, 70 with the hatchlings and stuff like that. And during breeding season, it's well over 100.
Yeah.
So it started out as kind of a necessity to kind of dampen it a little bit, and I slowly started clearing out the room that the rats were being in so I could do more and more.
Right.
And I always told myself I cannot have too many ball pythons to where I cannot produce for myself. Okay, so if I can produce more rats, I can have more snakes. If I can't, well, I have to cut myself off because I can't provide my own food for them. So
yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think the other thing is, like, I see some of the rodent breeders. I mean, have you gotten to the point now where you're like looking at, am I breeding Dumbos? Am I breeding Rexes or Silvermanes or any of that? Or are you really just kind of like,
for a while I was Silvermane and Martin are my top 2 that I like. For a while I was doing Dominant White Spot.
Yep.
Then after about 2 years of breeding rats, all of a sudden I had some rats that were staying small.
Yep.
And found out that dwarf was probably mixed in with the rats, but these rats weren't true dwarfs. They were actually bigger.
Yeah.
But they were smaller than regular Norwegian size. I mean, regular Norwegian males are like, Christ, a couple 100 grams easy.
Right.
But these guys, the males were staying at like 150 grams, no bigger. And the females were smaller than that. So and regular dwarfs are like about 100 to 125 maximum.
Yeah.
So these were a little bit bigger, but yet still smaller. But because of the virus that I had over Christmas and whatnot, I actually lost all my actual dwarfs. But they're still out in the wild because a couple people did actually get them months before the virus hit our rattery.
I got you.
Yeah. So
Yeah. And I mean, so obviously, ball python wise, I think I know the answer to this. I could be wrong. So I know you have
You're
a
wrong.
lot of, yeah, I'm probably wrong. I know you have a lot of unique projects, different kind of,
Right.
collection build. I know when we've talked, we have a lot of differences as far as like genes and stuff that we have, which, that's part of the unique part. I think when you go to shows is to see where different vendors are going.
Yep.
Favorite gene to work with. I feel like it's Hurricane because I feel like every time we talk
You're
about it,
right.
it ends up going back to Hurricane.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
of stellar pictures you got of them, but
Hurricane is definitely a gene that I've been watching ever since I seen it for the first time on Dave Palumbo's channel.
yeah,
Um, and the background of it and stuff like that. And the controversy, is it Blitz or is it Trick also?
right,
It's like, I don't care. Mine is from the main source, Hans Winter over
correct,
in Germany. It's called Hurricane. It's going to be Hurricane. It's like how some people segregate Coral Glow and Banana. It was called Coral Glow when I got it. That's what it is going to be when I sell it.
correct. Yeah, and that's how I always look at it because I mean I kind of tell people like it's like this. It's like if you go and buy the Buick version of a Cadillac, and they're like, "Oh, it's the same thing." And I'm like, "Not really. Like it
Right.
has different badges. It's just keep
Right.
your
It's
lines
pretty
the
much
same."
it is. Yeah.
So
Pretty close.
yeah, I mean, I think it was last year. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I remember us talking about it. I think it was last year when we were talking about the Hurricane genetic stripe, which I don't think. I mean, to
Yep.
our knowledge, I mean, there's not much out there on that. I think
Correct.
that's an intriguing one. I think from my part, from what I know about your collection, as far as where are you looking to go with that? Because I know that you're not just gonna stick.
I'm not just going to stop right
Yeah,
where I think I
exactly,
am. Um,
exactly.
Lucky for me, the ones that I do believe are actually Hurricane genetic stripes, I actually do have two males of. So I'll
Right.
be able to hopefully prove that they have, if the odds are in my favor, I should be able to prove that there's Hurricane in those two males by just throwing it to another codom. I don't want to throw
Right.
it to another genetic stripe or another het genetic stripe quite yet till
Yeah.
I prove that there's actually Hurricane in it.
Yeah.
And then after I'm able to hopefully prove that there's Hurricane in it, maybe the following year, one of the females that I do believe that there's Hurricane in will probably maybe be ready.
Right.
So I might be able to try to go for the Hayabusa genetic stripe.
And see, that's the one that's intriguing to me because I know, like, when we were talking about it, like, it threw me off guard. I'm like, no, it's gonna do more, and
I did too. I was hoping it would because look what Spot Nose did to it.
right. Look what Spot Nose, look what Acid did, look what any very heavy, strong pattern blacks, heavy darks in a gene
Right.
has done to it.
And it did the exact opposite. It reduced the pattern.
Right. And I'm curious, like, would the Hayabusa in the super form, and if someone by chance is listening or watching, if by chance you have this hiding in your rack, can you please just share it so we know?
Please.
But I really
I'm not the only one who's trying this combo.
Right.
I know of one other person on Instagram that is actually going for Hurricane genetic stripes this year.
Yeah.
He found me because I actually think I produced a couple. So
Right. Yeah, because my thing has been, would the Hayabusa reduce it more? Or would it actually then finally start to bring it back in? Or then the question becomes, what do you need to put with it? Do you need to add Spot Nose to it? And then you see a lot more. Do you need to throw, I'm trying to think of other ones, whether it be Acid or Leopard or any of those other genes that have brought a little bit more pattern. Even Enchi. I don't like Enchi.
Or even Spider.
Yeah.
Spider and Hurricane and Pinstripe and Hurricane react really well together.
And Spider and genetic stripe. I mean, the reason you still see a lot of Spider genetic stripe is it looks awesome with the drips down the side.
Right.
So I think that's, I don't know, to me, that's one of the ones I know I'm intrigued about, obviously kind of going forward. I know you got a lot more in the bank, as far as, what's coming, different projects and stuff. I mean, what gets you excited? Not just, I mean, maybe for this year, but, even kind of now looking ahead to 2024, because I know a lot of folks, I mean, if you're like me, I mean, we're already looking, what's next year going to be? What's the year after?
Right.
We're always playing that chess game.
Next year, I have probably about 5 or 6 girls that are about to be at size. By next year, they should be definitely at size. Ones that, the whole 3-year wait
Yeah.
Well, I like to slow grow my females. I don't try to push them at 8 to 18 months and then try to give me a clutch, but I slow grow, make sure that they're nice and healthy, keep an eye on them. Take care of your animals, and don't overfeed them until you really need to, which the females are the only ones that really need to be fed well, for breeding season, only for when you're about ready to breed. But if they're pets, don't overfeed them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, next year I'm hoping to produce a lot more visual recessives.
Right.
This year I really tamed down my breeding because of the rodent issue. If I can't feed them, I'm not going to breed them.
Yeah.
So, but I do have actually one clutch in the oven right now.
Yep.
It's actually, speaking of hurricane, it's actually Hurricane Het Genetic Stripe to Mojave Champagne Het Hypo.
That's actually interesting. Because there really has there been Hurricane Champagne? I don't know if I've seen one.
I have heard there has been Champagne Blitz, but I don't know of Hurricane Champagne.
I mean, I work with the Blitz stuff, and I mean, I don't know. I haven't really even thought about cusping that yet. So yeah, I'm not sure. I know what a Mojave Champagne looks like in my head, like because I've seen it before. But I'm trying to think like I know what
Mojave Hurricanes
look like. But I'm trying to think like where does the hurricane? I don't think I've seen one yet. Again,
is Champagne another one of those genes that's just gonna obliterate hurricane?
I don't know. I mean, I think that's kind of I don't know. Champagne for me has always been one of those intriguing ones. I feel like I really wish I wish Rare Genetics was on here right now, but I'm sure that they're not going to listen to this. But if you ever are, if you could please do testing on the Champagne complex, because I'm a big believer that there potentially could be like either a lot of variation across just the gene Champagne, because I mean, I see a lot of just single gene Champagnes or pastel Champagnes or super pastel Champagnes or yellow belly Champagnes. You can line 5 up next to each other. They can all just keep pushing yellow belly Champagne and be from the same yellow belly.
Yep.
And they all look completely different. That's what I've always liked about it, but it's also a pain.
Yeah, it's unpredictable.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would be kind of curious to kind of see where that develops. I mean, as well. I know Champagne and Genetic Stripe, like Champagne still beat the crap out of Genetic Stripe to a degree.
Yes.
But
that will hopefully be in the works too, because I know Champagne. I'm trying to get things in with Genetic Stripe that actually kind of change Genetic Stripe a little bit, and then try to combine them on top of each other and see how it intensifies if it does.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's been like one of the things I know, like when I was talking with Kevin from KDF, like we were talking about it. Like we were bummed that the puzzle Genetic Stripe ended up with Spider in it, because we think that the Spider actually hid some of the potential of what the double recessive was. It was at NARBC. Wow. It was at NARBC this year, sitting at I think it was Bow to Exotics table. And I believe it was for sale. I don't know if it still is, but you think about it, it's a double recessive, and the reason it didn't sell, I don't think it was just because it was Spider. I think it was because the Spider was hiding the potential of what that project probably was. So
right. That's why I did the pairing that I did to get the Hurricane Genetic Stripes. It was a pastel Genetic Stripe to a Hurricane Het Genetic Stripe. As minimum genes as possible. And I hit every variation. I hit regular Hurricane hets, regular Genetic Stripe hats. Some had pastel, some had Hurricane. I had every combination, but there was very few genes involved, so I can see hopefully the full potential of what Hurricane could have maybe have done.
Right. I mean, if we do that, we might be able to get Dylan here hooked on ball pythons, and then we'll open Pandora's box for him.
Oh.
He'd end up with way too many. Then you can go buy the shop code, Dylan.
Which one? There's a few of them.
He'll buy one for the ball pythons, one for the geckos, and the other one for scaled up or something. He'll have to have 3. You can have your own line.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, Steve, haven't seen you in a while. I know you got to go take the kids away, but thank you. Hope you tune in later. Can't do it, guys. I've thought about it too many times. Poor Turbo's probably lonely, Dylan. He needs a friend. multiple girlfriends. So
Indeed.
I think the other thing too, and this is, I feel like this year been more than ever. I think it's been kind of re-brought up, just given that I think the focus on from a breeding perspective, not just the breeding, but then the business side of it. There's been more stress on it, given obviously the economy and stuff, and a lot of people have been asking, how do what defines a good picture? How do you take a good picture? And I think a lot of people don't realize. I mean, there's a lot more that goes into it. Taking a good picture of, basically something that doesn't want to cooperate, than what a lot of people think. I mean, you have that background, you live it, you breathe it. I mean, if people saw some of the real, that's just a small, very, very small snippet of some of the really cool stuff that, I mean, you've done for, other breeders as well, like Garrick DeMeyer and stuff. So
I'm actually taking a gander out there tomorrow. Going in for another round of photographs. Yep.
See, and that's awesome. I mean, how does someone? I mean, obviously, we might not go from normal user to professional photographer overnight, but how does someone take a good picture? Like, what are like the 5 steps that go into? I want to take a good picture of my ball python. What goes into that? What does that look like to be able to actually create that?
Whatever you are using to take the photograph, learn how to use it first. Practice. Learn what this button does, what that button does, and only change one thing at a time. You change too many things, you're going to forget what actually worked.
Right.
Because that's what I did for, 15 years. I always wanted to take good photos, and it's like, oh, that picture didn't work, and changed a couple things and like, okay, that kind of worked. And did you get it up on your screen? It's like, no, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Because cell phones can take great photos.
Right.
I go above and beyond that so I can express myself a little bit more with that.
Right.
Don't get asked these types of questions very often. I usually get asked like, how do I get this picture to turn out this specific way? Don't be depressed if the photo didn't turn out the first time.
Yeah.
Just keep going at it. Like I said, I've been putzing with cameras for 15 years, and I finally, in the last 3 years, I finally got it.
Right.
Because I wanted to take decent photos of my animals that I had to put up on Morph Market for sale or for online for sale at all. So I had a camera, actually the one I'm using right now as a webcam.
Yeah.
That is the camera that I started with, and it wasn't the greatest camera. I still have an older camera that actually takes pretty decent pictures because I figured out how to get off of automatic.
Okay.
I shoot only in manual.
Okay. Yeah.
I learned how to tame the ISO feature on the camera, which is the feature that will add the noise, which is the cheater way of getting a picture really bright.
Okay.
But when you blow it up, you get the pixelations, and it's usually in the darker areas of a photo.
Right.
I figured out how to tame that and to get things to not be blurry anymore by changing the shutter speed.
Okay.
And then you have the aperture, which gets everything in focus or just one specific thing in focus.
Mm-hmm.
And after you figure out how those three coincide with each other, it's called the triangle.
You can make up a word. I don't know anything about cameras. I just know how to click a button on my phone. So,
right. There is a pro mode on your phone where you can change a lot of those features on the phone. You can change. I know you can change the shutter. I know you can change the aperture a little bit, and the ISO.
Exposure.
And the thing is, on automatic, everything just the exposure triangle. Yes. Yeah, simple words are sometimes really hard for me to figure out some days. I'm just glad I remember my name.
So, I mean, like when we're taking photos, I mean, are there any tricks that you've picked up as far as to get, whether it be the snake or the Euromastics or the bearded dragon, the Accu monitor?
Light. Light is the biggest factor for a good photo, actually. The more light you have, the more even the light is, the better clarity of a photo you will be able to capture. If you shoot an automatic and you have really bright light, your camera will try to go as dark as possible to get you the most evenly exposed photo, which is actually the best exposed photo. Right. The hardest photos to get to look good are photos that are really dark in the background, especially if you're shooting on automatics.
Yeah.
Unless you have a newer camera that has something that's called high dynamic range. Okay. In other words, it's able to process a lot of the lack of light and actually put things together to actually so you can up the exposure a little bit in post processing and actually bring the details back.
Yeah, or as Gary says, take 1,000 photos to get 2 great.
It does take that sometimes.
Or 1,000 to get 0 good ones.
For the Christmas photo that I took, I fought for a half hour with the one animal I wanted to use because it fit the coloring.
Yeah.
It took me a half hour to get one photo at the end. It was still slightly blurry, but I was able to work with it just enough just to get it to look good, for a smaller print.
Right. And I mean, you mentioned that obviously fighting and struggling with the animal. Obviously, sometimes the animals don't cooperate. It's unfortunately not as easy as a human. You can say, well, do this or do that or move them around. Do you have any tricks that you've picked up for kind of getting your subjects to cooperate?
If you're using it on just a piece of black acrylic, which is what I use for my reflective photography, it's a lot easier for the ball pythons is to basically cover up their head. They'll pull back a little bit for a little while. It seems like the juveniles are the ones that are most active. Sometimes if you get the adults, they kind of get scared, but you can put your hand over their head and they'll usually tuck back in there for a long enough period of time to be able to take a photograph. Now for like geckos and stuff like that, don't do them by yourself. They move too damn fast to try to sit back, take a photo, and try to get them have a second person to be the handler for the animal, just in case if it jumps one way or jumps the other way.
Right.
Trust me.
I mean, I think a lot of people, I think sometimes have tried, they've seen either your photography or I know like there's like Gobbles and stuff that has done, photography.
Yes.
Calendars.
She is, Brittany Gobble is actually the person that I idolize.
Yeah. Yeah.
I every time that she's on podcasts or whatnot, I usually try to listen in onto them, and when she posts photos and stuff like that. And one time she actually shared one of my photos of Orange Dream pastel spider that I did on some lanterns, some fake lanterns. Yeah. They had LED lights in them. So, and she shared them. I was like astonished. Yeah.
Because I put it in the reel.
Yep.
But
I love that photo. That was an awesome looking animal too.
No, I know. I think that's like another part of it. I mean, you take someone take someone like myself. Like I always make this joke, and I know Nick Kennedy, you're watching here, so you can make the jokes about me too. Where like I joked that like my art like stops at stick figure, and I'm not even joking with that. Like I can draw a stick figure, but if you say take a photo or realism or any of those things, like I can't figure it out. Like it's just gonna still look like Matt. How do you come up with some of these ideas, because you have so much different variation between the props, the lighting, the different colorations in the background, how the reflections are working? I mean, how does that like inspiration come to you? Is it just something that just comes in the day and you write it down? Or
sometimes the ideas come to me just at weird times while I'm at work, or I'm just sitting here and it's like, wait a minute, I gotta try that. That's how like some of the photos that you put in the reel that had that really bright background.
Yep.
That's a way that I found out from actually watching photographers taking pictures of humans.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
follow a lot of photographers on YouTube, and I'm like,
Right.
I'm gonna have to try that. And I took a first couple, and I will be making a video on how I do it too.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
because some people are wondering how the heck I was able to get that imagery behind, to where
Yeah.
behind animals that I can change, I can move around or whatnot. It's surprisingly easy, but you actually have to be kind of careful on it too, because there is some minor possibilities of issues. Not for your animals, just
Right.
it would be explained in my video when I make
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's kind of been the thing. I mean, some of the pictures, I mean, when I look at them, I mean, there's the depth to the photo. You have the depth of the animal already because there's all the
Hmm.
different color and pattern going on with that. And then there's the depth of the photo. And then when you bring those ones with some of the backgrounds, it's almost like throwing like a fourth dimension or something like that to me. Like, because I feel like I'm seeing things from like all these different angles. And it's really, really wild. I mean, how that all comes together. I always kind of feel like it's like one of those like Michael Bay films, like with all this different crazy stuff going on.
Creativity comes in strange forms. I've been blessed with a creative gene all my life. All the art classes, I've always aced all the art classes. I've always had a different type of style. It's not a style that I can just create on a whim. I couldn't.
Right.
I felt that I would not have done. I would have done good in art school, but in the real world, I probably wouldn't have, because in the real world, you need to think of it now,
Yeah.
not at 1 o'clock in the morning, now. And that's not how my creativity works sometimes. I mean, if I think about it at 1 o'clock in the morning, but I can't do it right away, then I'll write it down, I'll think about it, and I'll do it the next day. But I can't do it under pressure. I can't do creativity under pressure sometimes. But with the photography, it's starting to force me to try to do the creativity on the spot, because, yeah, you may have a vision, what you want to try to accomplish, but things don't always work out.
Right.
It's like last week I was taking some pictures of my mother-in-law's dog. Yeah, let's just say he doesn't like flash photography. So I was lucky enough to get 3 shots, throughout the trials,
Right.
and I told her, it's like, well, I edited those, and she chose one, but I told her that I will be back with some LED lighting instead of my flash photography.
Yeah.
So a little bit more. It's called constant lighting. It's light that's always on all the time.
Okay. Yeah.
There's an advantage to that compared to flash photography. Usually, it's cheaper.
Okay. Yeah.
And what you see through the camera is what you're gonna get when you have constant lighting. But the drawback is you can't get it as bright unless you have hundreds of watts. Then you're gonna start breaking the bank, which is gonna be also producing a lot of heat because of all the electricity you're using. The advantage for flash is it can be a very bright light for just the right amount of time that your camera needs it.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a dark room
Right.
in order for it to actually work. I could take a photo in your room right now, have flash on an animal, and the back of the room will not be seen and be almost completely pitch black.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, I think, then it kind of comes to the other part. When you go through your breeding projects with your snakes, does that ever leak over into like almost you're trying to make something sometimes because you want to photograph it? Like, does that almost kind of come together?
No, because I'm not that good at rolling dice. I was really bad at D&D.
So
because you don't know what you're going to get. I mean, yeah, when you put
yeah.
clown to clown, you're going to get a clown. But if you throw those other genes in there, are you going to get what you want?
Right.
It's unpredictable. It's like going to the thrift store trying to look for a pair of jeans and finding a pair of shorts instead.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fair. I mean,
and that's where I actually do get a lot of my props too, by the way.
The thrift
stores? The thrift stores, yeah. Because except my even the lanterns I've been finding at thrift stores, I don't look for brand new items very often. I like them to be aged.
Yeah. Yeah, that gives it that authentic, rustic appeal.
Right. I
Yeah.
spent $30 on an old camera off of eBay just because it looked like crap.
Yep. Is that
And
the
that's
one
how I got my best black and white photo that
Yeah,
I
I was
ever
gonna say, is
took.
that black and white photo? The other
Yep.
one I used in the reel? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think then the other thing, I mean, we've talked obviously a lot about your photography, your art. We've talked a little bit about your breeding project, your back end operations with your rodents. Obviously, kind of that bringing that all full circle. When people come to the show and they see DNA Reptilia, what do you want them to either remember about you, about your brand, about your product? I mean, is there like what's your goal always? For someone to walk away with, whether they purchase something or not. Like, what's your goal besides obviously them to be happy?
I want them to be intrigued by what we have to offer. It's not just reptiles. That's
Yeah.
why I figured, when we first came up with the name DNA Reptilia, it was going to be DNA Reptiles, but it wasn't broad enough. And plus, DNA Reptiles was also taken.
Okay.
So I looked for synonyms for reptiles, and Reptilia came about, and it rolled off the tongue a lot better. And Reptilia sounded more rounded, more surrounding. It's not just one specific type of thing. So that's one reason why we kind of sprawled out from just having animals to having other things at our table also that are like, oh wow, the Abby's epoxy art, her very colorful dragons, her frogs, and her army of cuteness, which is all big-eyed geckos. It makes people think that it's not as scary as what they originally thought, and it makes it seem like it's a little bit more intriguing. That's why when I bring the photos there, I try to put more of the photos up that have the props on it. That makes the snakes or any animal that I put up there not so scary to look at.
Yeah.
It's just a big snake in a photograph. It's more, I want that.
And I think that's a really good point. I know that's something like me and Gary have joked about, where I've joked about that he needs to make little like plush Build-A-Bear geckos, because I was like, if every kid instead of a teddy bear had like a plush gecko or a plush snake growing up, it would be the same thing. Like, the only reason you don't see people going and buying bears at shows, and please, if someone knows of a show where they sell bears, let me know. I mean, I think that'd be fun.
We actually have some black bears running around Little Chute the past couple days.
But people don't sell them at trade shows.
No, they're wild bears. They're wild bears. But they've been spotted in Little Chute area, and my wife is freaking out because she hates bears.
Yeah, but I think that's my thing. I think in general, like, I remember a trade show I went to in Iowa. It wasn't a reptile show. It was an outdoor show, but they had baby grizzly bears there, and the line for people to hold baby grizzly bears was nuts. It went outside the whole basketball arena and like around to go hold a grizzly bear. But I feel like you do see some of that like with the kids and stuff. But like, I mean, these were like adults that were doing it. And I find that a unique thing, like you were mentioning, to take away the fear factor from the reptiles and stuff. I think that's actually really, a big barrier, that we try to break down at Scaled Up, which I think kind of gets me into my next point, which is, I mean, obviously I know you've been doing Scaled Up longer than I have. I think potentially from
the second show that they had was our very first show.
Yeah.
And we've missed a few here and there because, we were growing as they were growing. So we didn't have enough animals, for every show.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, you've been a staple, I know, at a lot of the shows. I mean, what is Scaled Up? I mean, I think meant to, to you, to your business, what's kind of your favorite part about when you go and do those shows?
The people that walk through the door. Oh, seeing the smiles, the astonishments, the curiosities, and the drive to want to do something that not a lot of people actually get a chance to do.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that I've always told myself is I always like making people smile, either by making them think outside the box and they just give me that strange look. I'm like, yeah, I know. I purposely meant to do that so you'd stop thinking and think about what's in front of you instead of what's going on around you.
Right.
It's like I've DJ'd before, and play the right song makes a person smile. It's like I always like making people smile.
Yeah.
So, and this is just another way I get to have an opportunity to make lots of people smile. And it seems like it's almost over 2,000 people at the past couple shows that we've been able to make people smile.
Yeah, no, and I think that's I think a unique thing. Obviously I'll tell the story. I think I told this. I feel like I was like the other week on Wally's episode or something like that. But I'm gonna give you a shout out on this one again.
You're right. You're right, Dad. I was at the very first one. I actually recorded the very first one. I actually showed up like about 2 hours into it with a video camera, and I actually recorded. There's a YouTube video up on the very first one. I think it's YouTube. It might be on Facebook, but I got recording of the very first one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the one thing again, I just want to kind of represent, like you were saying, it's the people. I think it's one, the people who come through, but also too, as well, the vendors. Like I was telling folks last week when me and Wally were talking, I mean, obviously I just gave that example from Green Bay. We were talking at the beginning of Green Bay. I forget who the customer was. He was talking and he mentioned acid. And you're like, yo, you got to talk to this guy about acid. And you made the exact joke. Right. You're like, you come to me to talk about hurricane, you got to him talk about acid. And it's true, because when you look at our collections, I mean, I probably have just as much acid as you have hurricane type of a thing, or vice versa.
Exactly. And that's nice. And you'll have your common genes that everybody will have.
Right.
That people would go for getting pets, or to build their collection a little bit more so they can have those genes, but then everybody has their little specialty gene that they like to play around with. Like Bill and Aaron at Lights Out, they're going for the here we go again.
G-stripe clown.
No, they're going for what's the other albino? Not lavender, not
Toffino. Toffee?
No,
candy,
no.
Lavender.
No.
T positive or T negative? It's T positive, Ultramil.
It's not caramel. It's
Ultramil.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's their little toy gene that they're playing with, is the Ultramil.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's, I think the unique part, like you mentioned, there's some common genes, some folks all have, but like then you have like kind of even your unique projects where you have those couple people. Like obviously me and you, I feel like you're one of the few other people that appreciate genetic stripe besides myself. So like that's nice to like see somebody else who appreciates it.
I'm actually buying a genetic stripe female, or a head genetic stripe female from Bill and Aaron. They're cranking out some nice genetic stripes, but the sad thing is they're keeping a lot of the good ones.
Yeah. Well, I don't blame them. I mean, there's really not. I mean, you don't really see a lot of variation in genetic stripe female to begin with. I mean, that hit the market. So I think that's just, kind of a unique. I still love the project. I don't care what people said. I think it was like 5-8 years ago, people were saying the project was dead with genetic stripe. I think.
And then you see the Kiki come out a couple years ago, the genetic stripe clowns.
I think the Kiki respiked it.
Yep.
And then I think
I'm in it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Garrick DeMeyer, for helping me spend my money at your place to help get into it. Yeah. I got a cinnamon pastel clown that's had genetic stripe, so that's a grow up that it's going to take me a couple years to grow up.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm in it too now. I mean, I'll be the first one to admit I've slightly switched because of the cryptic G-stripe stuff that came out. I actually like it better. I like it better than the Kiki ball. I know people are probably gonna massacre me for that one, but it's just I like the.
Are you gonna go for the Krypton, or are you gonna go straight cryptic?
I've seen both. Because Kobika made the triple recessive DG Krypton version. I personally like it when it's straight cryptic. So we're gonna see what. I'm going to unfortunately have to get it to Krypton first to get it to cryptic, because all of my Pompeii freeway stuff is in clown. So dear. I have to move it over to cryptic, and then all of my genetic stripe stuff already has, like a lot of it already has like head clowns in it and stuff. So it's going to be a process. So my thing is, unfortunately, I'm just going to hit the clown version first and then have to backtrack to move it over to cryptic. So. Unless I buy stuff.
I'm going to be making the female that I got from Garrick. I'm going to be hopefully making my own male here next year, my own male double het. and I'm not going to divulge what mail I'm going to be using for that. So,
hey, I'm right there with you. I got a male that's been sitting in my collection, I think 4 years, and I think I've yet to ever put him on a camera, on a picture, on anything. And I think at least 2 or 3 people who have actually walked into my snake room said, "So how long have you been holding him?" And I said, "Until all the females decide."
right. And now it's just hopefully that male performs.
Oh, right. You know, that's the other part. You know, I don't know. I mean, we're getting around that time here. I mean, we got Dylan. I see Gary. I see Wally. See a couple other folks. Amanda, I see you just jumped on. I mean, I'm feeling about ready to try to give away some scaled up VIP tickets that can be used at any scaled up show. So, I mean, folks, if you don't vend them all, but you still want to come out and hang out with us, I mean, if you know what, I'll up it one more. If you're a vendor and you don't vend all the scaled up shows, and somehow you win the VIP tickets, the show that you come with the VIP tickets, I'll have an iced tea waiting for you. How about that one? I'll up it that way. See, Gary's excited for VIP, so we're gonna kick it off with a little promo here, and we're gonna give away some tickets. Alrighty, folks. So I'm gonna put it up here ahead of time so that you know whoever wins knows that is my email to message me if you win the tickets. But again, as always, you have to pay attention during the episode. If you don't pay attention during the episode, you don't probably win the tickets. Early in the episode, we talked about Dave's favorite gene. If you've seen a lot of Dave's photos, you probably know what gene this is in ball pythons. What is that morph? If you want to win 2 VIP tickets to any scaled up show, and if you're a vendor and you're not going to be vending that day and you still want to go VIP and take a friend, I'll also throw in an iced tea. Come on, folks. Like, no one wants to win these tickets. I saw we were an all-time high right before the tickets, and then you hear about free tickets and y'all go drop off. It's very disappointing.
They're backtracking in the video to see if they can figure it out.
Yeah, they probably are.
We talked about it quite a bit too.
We talked about it quite a bit. I mean, I feel like this was one of the easier rounds I had of trying to give. He's a closet leopard gecko fan.
No. She grew up and moved out of the house. Sorry.
So if you guys are also hockey fans, this team is right now, I don't believe they've been eliminated, and they're still in the NHL playoffs. It's also the same name as Dave's favorite gene. It's also something that consistently hits Florida all the time. Going once. Going twice.
Come on.
People are going to skip on these scaled up tickets, and you're just hurting Dylan's feelings right now. It's not very nice. You know what? I mean, at least Wally's throwing in the Knights. No, it's not that side. Don't think
it's definitely not the Blackhawks. No.
It's definitely not the Blackhawks. We already won our lottery. Yeah, see, Gary's right there. I mean, folks, we gotta come on. I mean, otherwise we're just gonna keep upping the stakes. We're gonna keep upping the stakes for these VIP tickets. These have been the 6 easy giveaways, folks. It's gonna get harder as the year goes on because people are gonna want them more, and everyone's gonna want to go see people like Dave and Gary and get their autographs because they're local Wisconsin celebrities.
Oh hell no. I shouldn't say it. It's one of the photos I actually signed. Someone actually came back and asked if I could actually sign the back of it, and I was like, wait. I was very surprised and humbled, and I said, yes, get me a Sharpie and I will.
Bingo. Dylan decided to jump in. I like that. We're gonna pick out 2 folks in line at the next show, and we're gonna surprise them. You know,
there you go.
Dave, you're gonna be at the next show, right? You're gonna be at Rothschild.
I will be at Rothschild, yes.
Because this was Dave's episode Dave is going to have the power to pick out 2 people's VIP tickets. So after I'm done setting up and Dave's done setting up, we're probably just going to go to Dylan. We're going to say that person and that person, give them the tickets. So Dave's going to have the power here, guys. So you better be nice to Dave. If you're not nice to Dave, you ain't going to get these tickets.
I have the power, but I am no He-Man.
So I mean, kind of bringing it on home. I mean, do you have a favorite memory? I guess either from one of the Scaled Up shows or just from a show in general.
Yes, I do. From the first show that we actually vended at, which was actually the second Scaled Up show before it was actually called Scaled Up. Dylan grabbed one of my ball pythons and went in front of the camera for a news agency. And seeing how well he did on that camera, I was like, that's my snake that he has. and he used our snake as a crutch to help him get him through the interview, which worked perfectly. Yeah. And just seeing the interview, take place in person, like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I felt that I was part of the family right then and there.
Yeah. No, I think that I love that story. I mean, one, because like you said, I think that just shows obviously the whole community that Dylan has built from a vendor perspective. I mean, I think that's just awesome. But I mean, the other part too, I mean, how many people can say their ball pythons have made the news? I'm just going to throw it out there. I mean,
right. In a good way. In a good way.
In a good way. Perfect, great for you. Let me use her. That's awesome. This wasn't turbo, right?
No.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
It was a pastel exanthic that I brought just for show and put around my neck or whatnot like that. And he grabbed our pastel exanthic.
Yeah, you went fancy. Yeah. You went fancy. Yeah. It's, of course, Dylan would like that. He likes all that snow stuff with the geckos. So I think that's some type of exanthic and snow. Dylan can correct me.
Yeah, probably.
Geckers. But, I mean, now looking ahead, obviously we're going into Memorial Day weekend, so everyone gets that wonderful enjoyment break. Then back up, we all get to go to Scaled Up and Rothschild. Rothschild, I think, is one of the areas, for Scaled Up, I think that we've seen phenomenal growth. I mean, just
heck yeah,
last year into the first show this year and stuff. I mean, it looks scorcher. I wasn't even there for the first show, unfortunately, and I feel like I missed out.
I was looking for you, and I didn't know know that you take the first couple months off every year.
I try to take the first couple months off every year. I was kind of kicking myself with that one because the snow and stuff wasn't too bad, and I saw that, and I know Todd was like messaging me, and he's like, "This show's nuts," and everything. I was seeing videos and pictures of y'all were posting. I was like, "Holy cow!" I mean, when we look into that show, I mean, what for people who maybe that hopefully maybe they get to watch this and that maybe they're going to their first Scaled Up show.
Right.
What should they expect? I guess, from your opinion, what should they expect when they come in? Where do they start?
That what are they going to expect? They're gonna be amazed by how the animals actually really behave by the people who handle them every day. Yeah. So you shouldn't be afraid of the animals because if one of their animals is not acting appropriate to be handled, they will let you know, and they know of one that they have there that could be handled for you to either just touch for your very first time or to actually handle it in your hands. Yeah. There are some people going by the kids like, "Oh, mommy, look, snake," and all of a sudden the mom looks like, "Oh," and I turn the head away or whatnot. I'm like, just give it a touch. They touch it and like, "Oh, wow," and they keep walking, but it's it's astonishment in every eye, especially the kids.
Yeah, and I think that's been, I know it's specifically with the Rothschild episode, I feel like both, kids and parents, I know that's something last year that I was seeing a lot of people, like, this was the first time that they've seen, touched, felt, a snake. I feel like you see that at all the locations, but a lot last year at Rothschild. And I felt like, both yourself, Gary, Hales Balls, obviously Dab, everyone, missing so many other vendors. There's so many great ones. basically stewarding that in.
Right.
You know,
And I think that's what's growing, helping Scale-Up Expos grow to the size that it is growing because of the open arm welcome that everybody gets.
Yeah, I mean, because I looked at the Rothschild show that was in December. That was like right before Christmas and stuff. And I know that was a weird one for me. Usually Rothschild, I've done better with snakes than I have with my tarantulas. That one was like reverse for me. But I know it was odd. But
yeah,
I remember just in general the amount of people that I saw that time buying cages, supplies, and the animal. Like, some of the same people that I saw the first time that were trying to figure out, do I want a reptile? What type of reptile do I want? And what do I need? I saw some of those same people that were then walking out. And the best one I remember is it was a family. They didn't end up buying from me. They bought from Garrick, but they went from, I'm looking at a snake, to I'm going to come back to Scaled-Up Expos. I'm going to buy a snake from Garrick DeMeyer, and then I'm going to also go buy a 5-stack rack. I saw them walking out with a 5-stack from Next Level Display.
Oh, Next Levels, yep.
Yeah, and I was like, I think that says a lot. You start with someone that's, what types of animals do you have at home? Well, we had a goldfish before, and we had a dog. And we got them all the way over the hump to feel okay with the snake, to want to hold a snake,
right,
to then want to purchase a snake, and to basically already say, we're not going to do one snake. We're at least going to do 5 because I just bought a 5-stack. So,
5 turns into 20. 20 turns into I need rats.
Yeah. And then 20 turns into 50, and then 50 turns into a Shopco, right, Dylan? But other than that, I know we're kind of winding down the hour here. I want to leave it open, obviously for folks that are, live in the chat. If you have any specific, hot burning topics, questions that you want to ask Dave, if there's, something that we didn't cover around Dave's really cool collection that you want to touch on, feel free to throw that out there. Any great stories you got about Dave, his brand, his breeding projects, feel free to throw that out there as well. Yeah, Pandora's box, but with a PG rating, guys.
Right.
Feel free to throw that out there. Otherwise, I'm sure Dave is getting ready for the Memorial Day weekend. Gonna enjoy some time off. Hopefully.
I gotta make sure I got batteries and everything charged for the trip out to Royal Constrictor Designs tomorrow. So
yeah. So what are you doing out there besides obviously photos?
Is
it top secret?
I'm not buying anything. I'm not buying anything this time. I promise. No, it's just photos. He gives me the opportunity to photograph animals that I could even just barely even dream about being able to produce.
Yeah.
Because he has such a vast collection that he's accumulated over 20 years.
Right.
I do it to him, as a service. And then when I do see an animal that he either produced or he puts up on his website that I feel that I can make good use of, he has a tendency to lower the price, to a fair range to where, basically I'm working off the difference by going to take the photographs for him.
Yeah.
And I go there about once every year, take some photographs of some of the ones for him. And last year he threw me in one of his videos. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I was nervous because he does everything in one take.
Yep. Yeah. I'm really curious, depending on how well Garrick has gotten to know you, if by chance now he's literally at the point where he's like, I'm going to make sure Dave takes a picture of these because I know he's going to want these, like sets you up.
He's been trying to show me the best that he has.
Yep.
And those are the ones that I couldn't afford for a while. It'd probably be about another 3 to 5 years before I could afford that echelon. I stretched out for that clown het genetic stripe. I stretched out for 6 months for that one.
Oh yeah.
But because this is where I spend all my money.
Yeah, you have 2 very, very time consuming and expensive hobbies.
Exactly. The camera itself was $1,000, and the lens is brand new. It just came out. That was $3,000 in itself.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say, I know lenses can sometimes be 2 to 3 times more than the camera.
Oh God, yes. Put your money in if you're gonna go with prosumer gear or pro gear.
Yeah.
You want to put your money in the glass.
Yep.
Because the value holds. The camera body you can replace a lot cheaper, a lot easier than you can with the glass. I shoot Nikon, and I have 2 lenses that are actually, one is over 10 years old, and the other one is probably about 15, 16 years old.
Yep.
And they still go up to a brand new body.
Yep.
And they work perfect because they were made as like $5,000 lens and a $2,000 lens. I got them for a lot less than that now because they're old, but they are flawless. Those pieces of glass in front of a new camera work phenomenal.
I'm guessing.
So always get the best glass you can if you're going to go prosumer. First, find your focal range. 105 has some. Yes, I have a 105, and I do not regret that purchase neither. It has a very slow focus, but man, when it's on point, it is sharp.
And
yeah.
So if someone wants to, because you do so many different photos, obviously, someone wants to hire you out to take photos of whether it be their bearded dragon, their snake, their monitor, maybe they want to make a calendar for their snake business. How do they do that? Do they just reach out to you on Instagram, Facebook?
Yep, they could hit us up on Instagram or Facebook at DNA Reptilia.
Yep.
Each one, is the same one. Or if they want to do a little bit more broad, not just reptiles or whatnot. I know most of the audience will be mainly reptiles in here, but I do other things also. There's times I've taken photos of cars and dogs and stuff like that. If reptiles are not your thing, but you do have other pets, any type of pet is deserving of a photograph. Hit me up at Dave Visser's Photography, either on Facebook or actually on my website, Dave Visser's, or the differentpetphotographer.com is my website.
Yep.
As for that one is mainly for reptiles and like not dogs really, but I do have a couple photos up there because I would like to take pictures of not just cats, not just dogs, but everything else that somebody could consider as a pet. Even a hermit crab, I would love to take a photograph of.
I'm gonna throw it out there because I know Gary really wants to take a picture together with it. I think Gary wants to take a picture with his cobra, with his rescued forest cobra. Isn't that right, Gary? You should get Dave to take a picture of you cuddling your cobra.
Oh, that would be a delicious photo.
It's an inside joke. Yep, Gary says, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Just got to find the right weekend. His weeks are crazy. There was one time I had a whole week off and tried to schedule a time to go up by him, and his weeks are crazy. So we're gonna set up some time on some weekend.
It's fast. David, have fun.
Gary, I'm gonna blow your mind with how things are, how I actually accomplish things. He's been bugging me, and I want to show him because he's just gonna explode.
No, at some point for me, I need to do it. I need to schedule time with you. I need to have you take a picture of some of the big tarantula girls I got.
I would love to.
I will be the first one. So I've got a couple that are metallic.
Pay for my gas because I know you're a little farther south.
Yeah.
Pay for my gas, and I would love to.
Easy.
Every once in a while, if you got something that's very intriguing, I will cut people really good deals just so I can
I'm not even worried about that because this office here, as it gets redone. So part of it, the reason is I'm going to be taking down all the stuff that's on the walls, and I do want to do artwork and stuff like that, but obviously have it of my collection. So I've got a couple of really nice metallic tarantulas. So my Dominican purple females will probably, my Darth Maul tarantula female, I would like to have a picture of her.
So, and I can print a lot of those in-house because I have a printer that is capable of printing 17 by 22.
Yeah.
Which is huge.
Exactly.
The paper is not cheap, but I also, this is the printer right here.
Yeah.
It weighs 70 pounds and it has 12 colors underneath it. That's another way how I get the photos looking so good is
Yeah.
the printer that I use.
Don't skimp on the printing. But,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
It's the only Canon product that I have in this house.
But other than that, folks, I mean, I know some folks just joining in late. I mean, you missed all the good parts of the episode. Definitely go. Feel free if you're joining in late and rewatch, because there was a lot of really good content. Everything from about Dave's collection, about his rodent production, around how he takes photos, some of his different projects he does, both from the photo side and the snake side. We talked a lot about Scaled-Up Expos, what that does for his business, what that means to him, the impact of Scaled Up across Wisconsin. I mean, I'll throw it out here one last time. I mean, if anyone's got any last second questions or comments, otherwise, gonna kind of wrap it up here. And
Dylan, they didn't actually miss the tickets, but if they show up at the next show, they might be the lucky ones that are picked.
That is 100% true. So I don't care if you're from 800 miles away. You should drive 800 miles to Rothschild, Wisconsin. It is one of the #1 places to go Bigfoot hunting. So if you want to go Bigfoot hunting and catch a reptile show, all in the same weekend, Rothschild, Wisconsin, Scaled-Up Expos. I can't sell it to you any better than that, folks. But going into Memorial Day weekend, I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful long holiday weekend. We will be coming back on Wednesday with Next Level Displays. So if you ever wanted to learn about different ways as far as how you can display animals, how some of these different enclosures are built, rack systems are built, and some of the crazy cool engineering that Jim and Anna have put together basically with their products, as well as how that came to be from being reptile breeders and figuring out how to turn that then into a display-based business on top of that as well. Definitely tune in next week to learn about that. From my side, I'm Nick Karaskevich with The Tread. And Dave, I mean, I'll let you take it away to close it out. I appreciate you coming on.
You're going to have me close it out? I don't know. It's yours.
I was going to have you close it out. I mean, Dave from DNA Reptilia. I mean, I can't be, it's been a pleasure from my side. I mean, I'll see you in Rothschild, but
you'll see me in a couple weeks. I greatly appreciate you inviting me on for this.
Yeah.
Every time I don't get invited very often because, we're one of the little guys here.
Yeah,
but
we both are.
I greatly appreciate it. And I feel humbled to actually be on the YouTubes, with other people, talking about snakes.
Definitely. And I mean, just for everyone who's watching or everyone who might watch at some point, if you haven't seen Dave's pages, if you haven't gone to his Facebook, if you haven't gone to his Morph Market, if you haven't gone to his Instagram, if you haven't seen him, talk to him, you see him at a show, reach out to him. Go check out what he's working with. He's got a lot of different stuff out there.
I like to talk.
Yeah, Bill. Hey, that's not a bad thing. But
right.
I'm gonna steal Gary's line here. Gary, don't censor me. But build your brand by building your network. So network with other breeders.
Right.
And with that, folks, I'm gonna tell y'all have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend and good night.
Have fun.